We'll show you what we've come to know on board while sailing wisdom.
The time has come. We've gotten everything stripped out of here, but now we need to remove the old chain plates and these rusting iron bars that are in here. So what we're gonna do is unbolt them, get them out of here, and then get this area cleaned up and stripped out all the way. That way we can start laying the glass to reinforce the hull to be able to receive and hold our massive chain plates that are gonna be bolting from the outside. And we lift. Holy crap. I'm strong. Woo! All right. All right, the first of like 12 for the day. Just look at the size of this hardware. That is one big nut. All right, one off. 2 more to go for this one. While those 3 bolts were accessible inside the head, the other 3 bolts, the ones to the cap shroud that are on the aft side, they're behind this locker. Actually, they're in this locker. So since it seems that it's easier to remove the nuts instead of trying to remove the bolt, we're gonna do that. So we're gonna remove the nuts from over here, and then we'll see if we can tap them out or something. They don't wanna budge. So I'm assuming that there's a little bit of rig load still on them, and that's giving them tension and then not letting them budge. So we're gonna see what's gonna give next, and then take them off in some form that we can get them off easily. But at the end of the day, we're gonna tie the shrouds so that they're tied up to the tow rail, rather than being supported by these chain plates that are just held in with bedding compound. All right, we got all the nuts off. The bolts are still in there, and they do not want to budge. So I'm thinking that there might be a little bit of tension on the rig, even though it's cold and the rigging's slack. I'm gonna remove the dead eyes from the ends of the chain plates and just tie them off to the tow rail. They'll be out of the way, and then the chain plates won't have any tension on them at all. So if that doesn't get it off, my next thing would just be remove the chain plates from inside. With that, the bars would be free, and I can kind of like pry them and lever them off and see what we can do. But that's where we stand. Nuts are off, bolts won't budge, and everything is stuck. But the bolts look in really, really good shape. So that goes to show you, if you buy hardware, buy good hardware, because 50 years later, it's still gonna look really good. Okay, with that, the forward lower is disconnected. I'm gonna see if this works before I go taking off the cap shroud and the aft lower, because, you know, if this doesn't work, I'd like those to be attached. Now, it's winter, so all my rigging's slack, so they don't really do anything anyway. Hopefully, these will turn. My, oh my. Alright, well, that's gonna take a different kind of tool. So I think I'm gonna need a cheater stick. Problem is I don't have a cheater stick here. So let's just take everything else apart and see what we can do. An interesting thing to note, these two are not part of the bonding. They're technically part of it, but they're not at it. And the one of the 3 that corroded away is the one that's in the bonding. Because corrosion is an electrochemical reaction, which is so hard to wrap your head around. But if you add electricity to the situation, it then corrodes. Or it's part of the corrosion process. And man, this sucker's stuck. There we go. Free. And with all that hammering, there's more rusty iron that just fell off. At any rate, I'm gonna try banging on these, see if I can get that loose, because I think if I can get it free at the bottom, I might be able to like jimmy it and shimmy it at the top and get that sucker to come off. Or absolute worst case is I cut it. That would suck. That's not gonna budge. Okay, the way a cheater stick works is you have a wrench and it's only this long. You slip it inside of the cheater stick and now your wrench is, you know, super long. So that gives you a ton more leverage, which means that the same force that you put in here is then multiplied by all of this length. And that gives you so much more strength or force. It makes you seem stronger. So let's give it a shot, see if we're able to crank these bolts loose now. So the bolts that were in there were really sizable. These are some massive suckers. And honestly, it is so hard to not look at these giant, gorgeous bolts and just say, yeah, we'll reuse these. Because they're old. And you should replace all the hardware along with all the parts. Like when you replace a chain plates, you don't take out the old bolts, put in new plates, and use the same old bolt again. It's brand new bolts. But they look so nice. And they're huge. Now's the moment of truth. It's completely free. All the bolts are gone. Now we're gonna see if we can pop it off of there. So, let's see how much this rust is holding it all together. Wow. The metal beneath all this rust looks really good. Got massive rust plates though. That's not supposed to do that. So, oh. Yeah, it's just really thick. Like, that is a massive piece of rust. My goodness. This bolt is just rusted and fused to this guy here. So it's stuck. So the only way to get this out is one solid piece. I'm just going to pull the chain plate down through the deck. And then, there we go. Okay, so there's the whole chain plate. Now the chain plate can come off. And I guess for leak reasons right now, we'll just shove this right back in there. There we go. Okay. I'll minimize the leaking. Okay. Now we can get this rusty piece of metal out of the head. One of them is out. Now we have to do the same on the back side. But thankfully the back one has more leeway. And the back one, we actually replaced these chain plates, the stainless steel part, when we were in Puerto Santo, which is a tiny island off of Madeira. But on our sail from Gibraltar to Madeira, which is 1,000 miles, and these were the windward chain plates, the cap shroud and aft lower broke. And then when we got to Madeira, we had to replace them. So these guys are new, but we're still going to be swapping them all out anyway, because, I mean, you saw the iron. The iron looks like garbage, but the stainless steel in there is new. Okay, a slight issue. When I took off the forward lower stay, it was a very cold day. So the rigging was slack, and I could just pull the clevis pin in. There was no action from it. Today is not a cold day, and the rigging is bar tight again. So that means that I can't just pull the clevis pin. I'd have to untie the lashing, and then I have to secure the lashing somehow. So it's much easier to just not mess with it. So I'm gonna try to unbolt the bottom, the chain plate down below, unbolt that sucker, see if with that, the bars will just slip up a little, give it take the tension off, and then we can take the plates apart. So we got all the nuts off. The bolts just won't budge because they're under about roughly about 10,000 pounds of load. So, you know, it's understandable. You got a lot of load on you. It's a lot of tension. You're not going to budge, but I need you to come out. So let's go. This here does showcase why when you see chain plates have a crack in them, it tends to be at the highest bolt. The highest bolt is under the most load. This one is free. Like, the chain plate is currently loaded. This is literally the same as cutting wires with the power on and just be like, oh, just cut the right one and you'll be fine. Don't touch the ground while you do it. No, I do not recommend taking your chain plate off with the stay still loaded. When this breaks free, it's gonna shoot up about 1 millimeter, maybe 2 millimeters, which isn't much, which is why I'm not really worried about it, like, shooting up through the sky or something. When the bolts come out, it's gonna go like boonk, and then that's it. I think, I hope. It's really dumb what I'm doing. Like, I really should just undo the stays. I'm gonna go undo the stays because what I'm doing is really stupid. You should not disconnect the chain plate or unbolt the chain plate with the stays still loaded, because what if it doesn't just pop up a couple millimeters? What if it really does pull it far and hard and then I break the deck or something else? Yeah, okay, well, just talked myself into doing more work. But the point of this is the bottom bolt is under no load. I can pull it out and it's easy. The top bolt won't budge because it's under about 10,000 pounds of load. And that is why when your chain plate gets a crack in it, it tends to get a crack at the top bolt. You have a bolt hole in the middle, so that area now has less metal. The one below it, same business. Less metal, so more load on the remaining area, but it's taking less load because most of the load was at the top. You get further down the line, and the bottom ones are just there for fun. So, anyway, I'm going to go undo the stays, do this the safe and proper way, and then we'll take it apart properly. Beauty of synthetic rigging. In the winter, it goes slack. You don't mess with it. When summer comes along, it's warm again. And then the rigging gets nice and tight again. You don't have to touch it. Now the shrouds are removed from the chain plates, so now they're not under load. And magically, it moves a little. Turns a lot easier. So this is the issue we had when we were in Madeira. That's as far back as the bolts will go. After that, you have to jimmy the chain plate off. And for whatever reason, I put sealant behind it. And I think it was because I couldn't get the back plate to come up all the way. So, it was an island repair because we didn't have all the resources and we were in the middle of the Atlantic and we had to keep going. So I put sealant back there to kind of fill it up. And we knew when we did this repair that we had to do them again when we got to the States. And now here we are, years later. So at this point, I'm gonna go back to down below, get those bolts off and see if we can't pry the sucker off this way and make our life a little easier. We're free. Yay. Okay, the last thing to do is going to be take this plumbing out. But I'm going to wait on that. I'm going to do the plumbing at the very, very end. That way, I have plumbing until the very end. So the next thing we're going to do is start laying on the fiberglass. So I'll probably take the plumbing off, put the fiberglass on, and put the plumbing right back. Because plumbing is important. It's a very important part of a boat. So the chain plates are off, but they're just hanging. And so they're filling up the holes. That way we don't have massive holes in our deck collecting rainwater. But we're going to work quickly, get everything built up. That way we can then put the bronze ones on as soon as they're cast.
Thanks for watching this episode of Sailing Wisdom. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next Rigging Doctor episode. And if you're interested in even more Rigging Doctor awesomeness, consider becoming a patron to see all of our extras. Can't wait to see you next time as you join us out here on the high seas.